Hi everybody, today's the day. Well, today and tomorrow. Finally getting to the stage where I've been anticipating and dreading at the same time, which is final paint. So I've got a few things still to do. I have to prep the floor and the environment still and do a bunch of cleaning, but I wanted to kind of take you along for the ride, so to speak, as before, and show you what I've done, what I have left to do, and kind of the way that I'm doing this. I'm sure those that have done it before will say, oh no, this is wrong and this is wrong. Yeah, probably. But this is the way I'm doing it because it's my first time and this is the stage that I'm in. So let me take you along for the ride. This has been a long time in the making, and hopefully at the end of this we'll have a painted vehicle. All right, first a couple steps. Masking. To remind you, I ended up painting the inside of the doors and the door jamb separately, mainly because I don't have a lot of room to set up everything and paint the door separately. Ideally, I would have been able to paint the door jambs and the vehicle, like the hard body portions, separately, and then set up the doors over here and the fenders and everything separately. I just don't have that room. So this created a little bit more work. I wish that I had more room, but I don't. So taped everything. This portion here is still painted and unpainted on the edge. So I'm gonna try to get a soft edge here using this soft foam line. I don't know if that's gonna work very well, but if it doesn't, I'm hoping that I'll be able to buff everything. So I'm gonna continue to tape. I use that foam tape along all the areas, and then hopefully we'll get a bit of a kind of a soft line on all areas. These sections here to me aren't that critical because there is a stainless piece of trim that goes on the Wagoneer on all of these. So although they are going to get painted, I'm less worried about these surfaces, although they are prepped. Again, same thing on the masking and the door foam tape that still has to happen. I'll come in here, back mask the wheel wells, and put paper along everywhere along the bottom. You notice that the roof is masked off. I previously painted and cleared the roof, and in inspecting it as I was doing this, I saw that I had a few dry spots up here. So what I'm thinking I might do is, once everything is painted and cleared, and knowing how great of a job I'm going to do, I'm going to have a bunch of orange peel. So what I might end up doing is wet sanding everything, including the roof, and then doing a flow coat or 3 of clear to get it a little bit more flat. In terms of the floor preparation, a lot of people will wet the floor. I'm going to continue to use this paper because I've got a bunch of dust and carpet and stuff, and I'm never going to get this as clean as it has to be. So I'm going to paper as much of this as I can. When I do paint, I might spritz some water and get the paper kind of wet so that the overspray doesn't just blow all around it. And then from the top, I've got a roll of vinyl or sheathing that'll come down. It'll create a wall here. It has a zip wall, so that'll come down, and then I have more paper or more plastic that I'll be putting up against this to just minimize the airspace and maximize the ventilation. Everything here will be covered. So I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna continue to mask, and I'll bring you along for a little bit as we continue. So for the underbody, there is a lip here. Make sure if you're doing this, and I don't recommend it, but if you're doing this, Make sure you clean that lip before you apply tape, because there's a bunch of dust and dirt, grime and everything else before you apply the tape. Otherwise you'll have a very frustrated tape. So what I'm going to do is just basically back mask with tape here, and I think on this lip, this lower section, I'm going to use plastic because it'll be easier to apply, and then I'll have a longer run, and we'll see how that goes. But little bits like this, and then I'll just apply the tape. I'll bring you back. I figured it'd be pretty boring to show masking and taping, but here's kind of what it looks like so far. Gotta fill the wheel well here. But I'm trying to, because it's dusty under the car, I'll finish this off here in a second, but I'm trying to get it so that as I'm spraying, there's not a bunch of other stuff that's gonna get kicked up, because it's a far from perfect environment. So let me finish this up and kind of block off this area here everywhere, and then we'll get to some of the foam, finish up the masking on the body, like in these gaps, and we'll get going. Okay, so the skirt is on all the way around, I think, to the best of my abilities. I shouldn't be spraying much over here other than the top. Next order of business, I think, before I put the foam tape on, is to go around the vehicle and find any spots that I didn't abrade sufficiently, getting a little gray Scotch-Brite pad and finding little nooks and crannies, maybe like right there, there's a little shiny spot, before I start cleaning things up too much. You know, if I'm going to create any more dust, now's the time to do it. So like I don't know if you see that little edge right there. I don't know, like I said, I don't know if that's important or how important it is, but I've come this far. Might as well take a little bit of extra time and try to do it, I guess, as right as I know how. Like there, for example, right there. So let's get a little Scotch-Brite pad. Conveniently, there's one right there. And I mean, this is going to be under the cowl, but like I said, I hope to only have to do this one time. So let me continue going around everything, and after that, I think we'll do a preliminary cleanup, and then we'll continue to tape, I think really only with the foam. After a bit of Scotch-Brite, I'm using this stuff. This will be one of many layers of cleaning. Certainly not the only one. Sorry about that. But we're going to do this stuff first, and then tomorrow, before spraying, we're going to do a lot more, but the last cleaner will be a solvent cleaner. So like a wax and grease remover. This just gets some of the fingerprints and, let's say, dust and so on, we're going to do a lot of cleaning. Because what I've seen, or at least what I've seen on YouTube from others that are a lot better at this than I am, essentially most of the dust particles that end up in your paint are likely already on the body, right? So the more you can clean up, the more effort you put in, the better it should turn out. So I fully expect dust, nibs, and other things, but I'm trying to avoid, you know, contamination that would cause a paint issue, like, you know, grease and things like that, that would cause a chemical reaction. The other stuff I can deal with. I can, you know, buff it, sand it, and so on. I don't want to have to repaint. That would be a non-starter. So we're going to try to do a good job in the prep as much as possible. So even stuff here that, like, you know, obviously it's not going to get seriously, this is all under the fender, but there's still dust here, and so as much as I can clean off, the better it will be. So I'm going to go around the rest, get an old stool, get that section here, and continue cleaning. And then when we're done cleaning, then we'll finally get to the foam tape. And more touch-ups. I don't know that there's a benefit in going over this fully, just lightly. What I've heard and seen from others is they like to have a fresh tooth for the next layer. I don't know if that's just like, I don't know if there's truth to that, but guys that are more experienced than I, which is pretty much everybody, say that that's a good thing to do. And then there's the equal part of other guys that are similarly experienced that say it's not necessary. So I will err on the side of caution, especially on the areas that, I guess, everywhere. So since I'm going to be cleaning this stuff up anyway, I'm just going to run over everything again. No harm. And see how we end up. I'm really, the more I do this, the more nervous I get for the end result. Like, I know it's not going to be perfect, but what I'm trying to avoid, and we'll talk about this when we get to the actual paint part of it, is because this is a metallic and I'm spraying with an LVLP gun, which is, you know, low pressure, low volume, it's not going to have a whole lot of paint output, and so my path is going to be smaller than if I was to use a bigger gun with, you know, higher airflow, bigger compressor. And the risk is modeling or striping with the metallic paint. So what I think I will do is we're going to do lots of coats of base, lots as in maybe 3, possibly 4. But certainly the last coat of base is going to be a bit of a drop coat, which we'll talk about when we get to the paint. Okay, time to start doing some foam taping, and I think I'm going to have to do it a couple different ways. In some areas, probably because of my alignment abilities, in some areas I have a pretty good, let me see here, a little closer. A pretty good door gap where when the door is shut, I have a nice, let me see if I can get in a little closer for you. A nice compression of this foam, and it rolls nicely, and there's a good soft edge. On other areas, like on the front door, which I'm going to have to realign because I realize it's way too far forward. What happens is when I press on the door, if I was to put the tape on the body, I get nothing. Well, you see, so I'm going to have to put the foam on the door side itself. Maybe even put a strip on this, but you can see how like there's a gap there, right? And the door is fully compressed because it's too far forward. If it was maybe 1/8 of an inch further back, I'd be okay, which is something I'm going to do after paint. So we're going to have to do it a couple different ways and just be flexible. Like on this door, everywhere else, I'm going to have to, I'll put it on the door side. And then I'm going to put a strap across, make a little window here in the paper so I can tighten it so the doors will be nice and compressed. So let me get the tape, and I'm not sure, I'll try to show as much as I can, although like I said, I'm not an expert, so you guys will be having fun critiquing my abilities. Okay, I think the foam's done. I'll have to stick that part back in. But I realized I made a mistake in the sequence of things. This 3M tape, this foam tape, is really not very sticky. And it sticks pretty well to metal, but that's about it. And the mistake I made is I did all of the masking first for the paper, and I didn't leave a lot of room for the tape. So like here, for example, this green tape comes really close to the edge of the metal, and so I didn't leave a lot of room for the tape, for the foam tape. So I think what you're supposed to do, I'm not sure, is put the foam on first so you can kind of gauge how far you want it to go, how close you want it to go to the edge, and then put the tape on behind it. I think. I don't know. In some areas, like you can see here, I ended up having to tape the foam tape to the previous tape because it just would not stick. But okay, I think we're going to be okay. So the next thing I have to do here is I'm going to cut a little window in the window so that I can put a ratchet strap or something to pull the doors together, so that there's some tension on them, because I don't think I'm going to be swinging the doors open and closed during the process. At least I hope not. Now let me think about that. Yeah, I was trying to figure out whether or not there would be any reason for me to pull the doors open. I don't think there is. So I might... I'd like to have the doors in their shut position so that I just can prevent, like, you know, any overspray. So I think I am going to try to find a way to really close them pretty tightly, and then go around and make sure the edges are clean and the foam is tucked in where it needs to be tucked in. The tailgate I have to kind of leave like this because I want to be able to get this area here a little bit more. So the tailgate's going to stay closed or stay open like this so that I can get in and get a little extra spray in those areas there. That's okay. This side is done as well. Yeah. So, I don't know, what do you think? You know, reflecting on this, I should have probably made an effort to find a way to paint the body and the doors separately. As long as the doors are in the same, like, you know, hanging vertical position, you should be able to paint metallics as long as it's the same batch and the same day, you know. This way, you know, I can spray the whole thing and I'll have an even pattern. I think the other way, you kind of have to be careful and make sure that you follow the same pattern on each door. So for me, this is probably safer, but certainly masking everything like 2 or 3 times added a tremendous amount of work. So if there is a next one, I'll probably be doing it a different way. Okay, so let me wrap this up, and then we got to do the tarp. Well, I think that's about it for tonight. It's about 9 o'clock. The Dexter scene is all set up. I'm going to be opening that door up to where the fans are, so there'll be some fresh air coming in from the top. And I think I will likely leave this open and open that door. I'm going to start here on this side with the sealer, work my way over here, finish the body first, then do the fenders, and then the hood last. So I'll see you in the morning. All right, it's the next morning. It's paint day. So last night I wiped off a couple more times, and this morning I've had my heater running. It's about 60 degrees outside. In the garage it's almost 70. The metal is just about the perfect temperature. Whenever you're spraying automotive stuff, you want to stay around 70 degrees. So as long as the metal is about that temperature, it's going to be okay. Even if it's a little lower, higher just means it'll cure faster, flash off faster. But since I am going to be ventilating out, it's going to cool off quite a bit, you know, faster. But anyway, just so you know what the temperature is. So next step, gonna use my glass cleaner, do another cleaning of everything. Then we're gonna do some not lacquer thinner, Jesus,
Maybe just send Joel a text.
that was close. Not jeez. Mental note, use this one to clean. And if you use this one to clean, you're going to have a nasty surprise. That was really close. Wow. Talk about not pokey-oked. Holy cow. I also sprayed the floor down with just water. I'm not sure that that's, I mean, I know people will like wet their floor, concrete floor, but because I put the paper down, I thought, why not try it in hopes of keeping some of the dust down, and it'll probably evaporate, and I may need to do it a couple times, but I'm not sure. I'm just gonna start this way. Next is do a blow off with the air compressor and kind of tack rag everything, and then get ready to spray. Sealer first. Well, the first coat and the only coat of sealer is done, and I screwed up. I forgot how thin sealer is, and well, Ron Running. More running. Run. 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 So, run. So what I have to do now is pause, let this cure for, I don't know, hopefully not more than an hour. Come back with a block, sand it down, and touch those areas up with sealer again, and then hopefully start making some real progress. Jesus, yeah. Okay, well, at least it's not in the base coat. Hood came out all right, but you can really see how much trash there is in the air, despite my best efforts. So, all right, moving on. Well, 3 hours later, I'm back where I started. I sanded down all of the runs, and there were many. So I scuffed everything back to 800 grit. You know, as much as that sucked, at least it was on the first coat and not the last coat. So I'm just going to clean everything up as best as I can now that I've sanded everything and I've blown everything out, but there's going to be a lot more dust. So I'm going to spend a little bit of extra time cleaning up as much as I can. And I'm going to spray one very light coat of sealer on things, and hopefully get started on the base coat finally. Okay, back in business. Done with the sealer. Sealer is really thin. I knew that once and then forgot. So we are good to proceed. It's been 15 minutes. I'm gonna make sure everything is flashed off. The body here looks okay. Mix up some paint. I'm gonna check the hood. And let's get going. Yeah. I forgot that, like with sealer, it doesn't have to be like, it doesn't spray like paint. Its purpose is not like paint. I've got a little more flash time right there. This is a little bit thicker. You can kind of see it. So I'm going to wait a little bit more. And what I found is when I spray, I need to keep the fans off. This time I kept the fans off when I sprayed the second coat, and I got no dust in here. So I'm going to turn the fans on now just to evacuate some of the fumes and mix up, and then I'm going to spray without the fans. That seems to work better. So I'm sorry that I'm not able to film while I'm painting, but it's stressful enough, and I just want to get it done and really give my focus to all this stuff. So I'll bring you back when first coat of paint is on. So my plan is first to be careful, and I'm just going to do a couple of light drop coats first, or a couple of light coats, tack coats I guess they're called, initially, and then let's see what the coverage looks like as I build up a little bit. I will probably do that, like, first actual coat might be a little bit medium wet. I just don't want any runs, so I'm just going to be really careful on that.
Right, hopefully you can hear me through the mask. I've got basically 2 light coats on everything, and let me get my light here so you can see. This is not intended to be like even. You could see here there's a little bit of unevenness, but that's okay. I just wanted to make sure I get blue on everything. So next step is kind of 2 wet coats, medium wet coats, followed by, you can see kind of how it's blotchy and uneven. Hopefully the next couple of coats take care of that. So 2 wet coats, and then if I need to do kind of a drop coat or orientation coat for the metal flake, I will do that. The settings on the gun for these light coats, I'll show you. I'm using this R500 OG, 2.5 turns out on the pattern. So I'll show you the spray patterns over here. This one here, about, actually it's this one right there, about 8 inches. So 2.5 out, 2.5 out on the pattern. This is the fluid volume, and like I said, I did not go full volume on this one. So this is also 2.5 turns. I think for the next one I might go a little bit bigger on the pattern and a little bit more fluid, but I'm gonna have to move very, or let's say faster. In terms of coverage with the LVLP, look, this thing works great. I don't have a reference. I've never used, well, I've used the purple HVLP for the epoxy, and this thing seems to be working great. I don't see why. I mean, if you're in a production environment, I'm sure you're going a lot faster and you get, you know, better coverage, but for the home gamer, I think this works just fine. So let me put you away and mix up some more paint, and we'll get going again. Also, I forgot to mention, when your paint flashes off, take your tack rag and get all the overspray. See all the blue stuff? That's just overspray. So once you pick it up, you know, if you didn't pick it up, if you sprayed, that stuff would get airborne again. So get a tack rag, just gently slide it over, and it's fine. This stuff is already, you know, dry. All right, well, I think I better stop with the color. It's kind of hard with the metallics because you never really know when it's enough. But I did the 2 light coats to start with, 2 wet coats, and then I just finished a drop coat, which is basically the same settings but stepping away a little bit and kind of fogging everything in hopes that the metal flakes would just kind of fall and evenly distribute to prevent any sort of striping effect. So we'll see how that happens. So I'm going to let this sit for about 20 minutes. But let's check it out. I think I've got pretty good coverage. I know it looks a little bit mottled on camera, but it's still very wet, and I think once we get some clear coat on there, it's going to be pretty good. So we'll let this sit. I see, you can kind of see a little bit of a shadow from my original sealer run, but it's just going to have to go. Yeah, it's hard, like, it's hard to do the metallics because you have to stay even, and if you do, like, accidentally, if you go one extra stripe, I feel like, oh, now I've got to do the whole hood again. And I don't know if that's necessary. I just don't know any better, so that's what I've been doing. But I think, generally speaking, it looks pretty good. I better have coverage. I've got a little bit of a run there. I didn't notice that. See that? Might see if I can take care of that before clear coat. I've got a little bit more blue paint mixed up, so let me take care of that little run, and I'll come back. Okay, just a little bit of 600 and 1,000 on a foam pad, and then it just sprayed onto the paper, and the overspray filled it in. I didn't want to start all the way to the top. All right, let's go through the rest here, make sure we got nothing else. It looks okay. It looks okay. I'm not gonna touch it. Not gonna touch it. It's like a house of cards. I touch one thing and then another and another and another, so I'm gonna have to be satisfied at some point here. Alright, so I'm gonna let this sit for about 20 minutes. I'll come back, tack rag, and in the meantime I'm gonna clean everything up and get the clear coat ready.
Alright, so the base coat has been curing now. It's been about 25 minutes, and just gonna wipe off any overspray. I did that once already, but right before I do the clear, I might as well do it one more time. See? There's lots of stuff in the air still. But happy to report that there are no further runs in the base. That would have been really difficult given that it's metallic. But I think I'm satisfied. Now you can see there's some junk still in here, but I can't do anything about it with metallic. So that's just going to get buried in the clear coat. And if we have more junk in the clear, then we'll sand and do all the things. Yeah, that's a little bit big, but nothing to do right now. So, how much paint did I use? I used a gallon actually. I had my original gallon, so half a gallon of the original paint, which I used for the inside of the doors, inside of the hood, and to tint the inside of the floor. So I used that as kind of the base, first 3 coats essentially, and then I popped open the new gallon, which was color matched, and used that for the subsequent 3 coats, including the drop coat. So that way there's only one color showing, right? Even though the paint mixing lady at O'Reilly's here in North Carolina is really, really good, you always want to make sure you just have one. I didn't want to mix the 2 gallons because then if they were a little bit different and I needed more of one paint for whatever reason, I wouldn't be able to match it as easily. So this way, the color that is on the can is the color that I can order, more or less, and just say I need another X amount of this. But hopefully we won't need any more color. So now in terms of the clear coat, here's my plan. I'm going to do 3 or 4 coats. I'm going to do a lot, probably more than is necessary, but hear me out here. Oops, sorry. The reason for that is up here on the roof in this corner, I noticed as I was taping, I was really dry. And I expect that this clear coat is going to shrink back and I'm going to get quite a bit of orange peel. So if that's the case, tomorrow what I will do is unmask the roof and sand everything, including the body, down if it warrants sanding, to get rid of the orange peel, and then do 2 additional I guess flow coats, you would call them. I really want to get enough on here initially so that when I do, or if I do have to sand, I've got enough film build that I'm not going to break through. I'm really nervous about that, and I'm going to try not to break through. So that's the plan. So I'll show you which clear coat I'm using. It's nothing fancy. It's U-Pol. Bought it on Amazon. It's also available at O'Reilly's. No, O'Reilly's is not a sponsor, but if they're watching, you're late. So it mixes 4-to-1. I like it. I mean, I don't know any different, so I'm sure the keyboard warriors will tell me that there are better ones. I'm sure that's true, but this project is expensive enough. And like I said before, this is not a how-to. If you're watching this, you already know that this is not a how-to channel. This is just how I do it. If you want a how-to, watch Sprayway. That guy is amazing, and he's also like a really good teacher. So I enjoy watching his videos, and go watch him. Anyway, I'm gonna finish tacking this up, and then get back in there, and then we're gonna get to clear.
Okay, I've got one more coat of clear. I just wanted to show you, is it peely? Yeah, it's peely. This is a coat 2.5, let's say 3. Not bad. I only have one serious run, and that's coming off of this wall here, this diagonal. You can see it all the way down here. I must have gotten way too close. But I'll wait for that to dry. I'm going to do one more coat on the hood. And then I'm going to call it good. And then tomorrow I'll come back and sand that down and do a couple of flow coats. You could see quite a bit of orange peel as it's starting to harden up. But that is to be expected at my level, I think. But I'm very happy with the color. I think doing the drop coat with the metallics really helped. Another little run right there. Not bad. So let me finish up the last clear for today, and we'll let it cure and come back in the morning.
All right, good morning everybody. It's the next day, kind of early in the morning. It's Saturday, but I think we want to finish everything up today. So today's plan is to knock down the texture. Let's see if I can get it. If I was a better painter, I wouldn't have this much orange peel, but I'm not. But this is a part of the process. at least for me. You can see here on the hood, there's, I don't know if the camera's, but you can pick it up there on the lines. There's quite a bit of texture. So first order of business is to get rid of all the little nibs. I did that with this de-nibbing file. You could probably do it with just sandpaper, but what this is, so that when you start sanding you don't start pulling all the nibs around. It's basically just a one-way file, and since the clear coat is hard enough, you just kind of slide it along and it takes away the nibs. Then you wipe everything down and then you can go to town sanding like that. Just takes the top off so that you're not getting a bunch of heavy swirl marks with whatever has caused the nib, right? You don't want to be pushing that around with your sandpaper. So I'm gonna start with 800, though I think that's not going to be enough, and I'll need to step down probably, but my priority is to try to get this line smoothed out. I'm nervous about this. I don't want to break through, so I'm gonna go gentle with the DA on the large surfaces, certainly staying away from the edges, and here we'll probably do some hand sanding. So let me set up, and if it's worthwhile showing you, I'll do that. I'm not going to show a lot of the sanding because it's boring, but this is what you want to get out. You can see now how the orange peel shows up when you sand. You can clearly see this run here. I already did this. I did this with 800. It's too fine, so I stepped up to 600. And I think I'm going to stick with 600 and then just do hand sanding in the corners here. But you want to get this to look like this, basically totally flat. Okay, and then when it's cleaned off nicely, when it gets wet, it'll turn blue again. When the clear coat is on, it'll come right back. All right, it's been about 3 hours, maybe a little more since I started. I did the hood in dry sandpaper with my DA, and I got those runs pretty much gone. And I started looking around, and well, I decided to do the rest. Unfortunately, well, I'm a little nervous about using the DA on the body just because, I don't know, I'm nervous of breaking through. So this has all been wet sanded to 600 wet. It is a slow process. I don't have any 400 grit, so I'm just using what I have. But I think it'll turn out okay. I spent a little bit more time on this side, and you can see it's better. So these little bits like this, I think I'm just going to scuff and call it good enough. These sections here, I'm not worried about it because there's a stainless steel piece of trim that goes over that, so we don't need to worry about that. So I think this side is pretty much done. I'm going to go back to the driver's side, continue that, finish up, clean up, and hopefully still be able to spray a couple of coats of clear today. In terms of the roof, I removed the masking yesterday because I know I've got a bit of a dry spot up there, but I'm not sure. I'm not feeling it, so I might just call it good enough. Phew! Started at 7:30 in the morning. It's noon. But that's the way it goes. Everything is sanded. I might have a few spots like that, but that's already scuffed with gray Scotch-Brite. And so now it's time to clean up again. I do have to mask the roof. I decided I'm not going to touch it. I'm just going to buff that when everything gets buffed later. Mask again the windshield and the roof, and we'll be good to go. And I think we're done. Let me show you. You'll definitely be able to tell where I sanded better than other places. So the doors came out great. I don't know if you can see, but there is some orange peel that will easily buff. Up here on this diagonal surface, there's a little bit more, especially up here near the window, but that's okay. A little bit dry here, but again, very, very buffable and a lot easier to buff without a tremendous amount of orange peel. So, you know, I think if you do this at home, you should expect, depending on the results you want, you should expect to need to buff, and how difficult it is depends on where you start. So I took the time to wet sand everything. I probably could have done a little better job, but generally speaking, makes it a little easier to buff later. Had a little bit of a run right there that I tried to get with some tape. Again, that'll buff pretty easily. So that's it. Paint complete. Project in the making for the better part of 3 years. So thanks for coming along for the ride. Thanks, honey, for putting up with it. And that's all she wrote for now. Thanks for watching.